It's looking like I'm not going to be able to resist getting into the design a little bit. Just going to grab all the areas that have a large buildup with big surface area spots and put a very thin layer of paper clay on them so I can build off of them in the future. Just want to generate some strength in the design. I already really think this thing's going three-dimensional. This should be cool beyond belief. If it ends up being cool beyond belief, then it's going to turn into a present for a special person. Well, that's not a bad start. I'm going to let this all dry up under a fan for a while and then come back to it. So I don't want any extra moisture getting in there and weakening any spot too much. I don't want this thing to suddenly start sagging in because it's just too wet. So I've got a couple of spots that are all kind of initially staked out. We'll let them dry so they don't detract from the structure. Alright, and hopefully more next time. I'm not kidding, next time. There's going to be a black screen, they're going to go to the next thing. Alright, we're back for a little bit more work on our fancy carve pumpkin experiment. I think I'm going to try to work on the front a bit today. Let's see how this goes. All the other stuff is completely and totally dry. The shoring up has really done wonders, especially in this section over here. I'm pushing down on it, there's almost no wobble. That glue behind everything really did a beautiful job. I highly recommend doing that. Assuming anyone is crazy enough to try this. I really suspect that with doing a project like this, using some sculpting tools, even if they're just kind of impromptu and splashed together from whatever's around, is going to be an absolute necessity. There's just no way you'll be able to get into the nooks and crannies with the level of detail that presumably someone would want without some sort of sculpting tool. One of the reasons I'm kind of glad I sealed all the edges with the Elmer's glue to start with, because I don't have to worry about sliding the paper clay over every single exposed edge. Would I like to? Yes. Is it a necessity? Not now, no. They're already pretty well sealed. I imagine they're going to have to be sealed a bit more during obviously the painting and sealing stage, but for the moment I'm not gonna break a sweat about them. I got here a piece of wire I was using on a stem for another pumpkin, and I'm just gonna use that to try to shore up some of the edge space here. I have the distinct impression that a fancy carved pumpkin done in this fashion will really not be an outdoor display piece, or if it is, it's going to have to be one that is safe from the elements. I don't want this, at least I'm not going to want mine, getting rained on. It's not going to be as waterproof, I imagine, as many of my other projects. I'll try a little experiment in my methods here. I'm just going to lay paper clay very flat over huge swaths of space, and then I think I'm going to come in there with that piece of wire afterwards and try to clean up all the edges with that, because trying to lay this all in precisely with fingertips, I imagine that's going to be a losing battle. So we'll see if we can do it by by tool, as it were. This part we have divulged away from tutorial and into the bounds of this is my first time, please dear Lord, let's try not to screw up too much for our studio audience. Alright, I think I'm really cheeky actually, not use the wire. I'm going to take my X-Acto and try to use this to get the paper clay back away from the edges. We'll see how well this works. Well, so far this doesn't seem to be working too bad. My only kind of artist sense complaint so far is that I feel like I'm losing tremendous amounts of detail from a flat cut. I'm really not, and I know that, particularly from two factors. I can go back through later and I can sand this down or smooth these edges out in any number of ways. But from this initial outset, that's just how it appears to me. I know that with a light behind this, it'd look just fine. But it feels like I'm losing detail. I would definitely say that if you're going for any kind of three-dimensionality to the fancy carve after you've done it, then yeah, this is probably going to be a challenging project. If you just want the fancy carve in place, and then you're going to leave it and just use it as a light projector from the pumpkin mouth, then this is probably not too hard. I'm just an obsessive compulsive artisan when it comes to this stuff, and I see the potential for enormous fun. Doing a little sculpting here. What I'm trying to do is roll the paper clay back from the edges of the apertures. So it kind of V's down and in to the hole. And the more I do this, the more I believe it is going to be absolutely impossible to use that mottled pumpkin skin technique on the carving and maintain any kind of